Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. There is gigantic news today. The United States federal government has announced they're developing a service called FedNow, which will provide around-the-clock, 24/7 real-time payment and settlement. What does this mean for Ripple and XRP? Will it affect the adoption? And if so, will it be positive or negative? I'll be getting into all of that for you. And non-XRP, or at least not explicitly XRP news, I wanted to cover for you also. Which cryptocurrency out there has the most positive sentiment? Is it XRP? Is it not XRP? Well, I'm going to share that with you too. I got a story on that. And also Max Kaiser, he says, there's a price prediction here, he believes that Bitcoin will hit $15,000 this week. That's kind of a bold claim. We'll see if that comes to pass, but I'll share the rationale behind that with you, which is particularly fascinating as today Bitcoin is hovering around, at least as I record this, it's hovering around $11,000. Now, before we get going, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, my friend, you've come to the right place. Go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. Treat yourself well. So here's a tweet from the Federal Reserve. This is the official, actual Federal Reserve Twitter account with over 500,000 followers, and they tweeted out, Federal Reserve announces Federal Reserve banks will develop FedNow service, a new round-the-clock real-time payment settlement service to support faster payments in the United States. And by the way, before I move on to the next tab here, I wanted to highlight this. From somebody named Joshua Davis responded, 2023 to 2024, and that's the launch date roughly. They couldn't even get it down to 1 year. But he goes, seriously, the technology already exists. Why would it take 5 years to implement? Okay, anyway, next tab here. I want to give a quick shout out to Crypto Enzo, who tagged me in a tweet from XRP Crypto Wolf, which linked to a website. I'm not going to pull. There it is, the Block Crypto. I'm not going to pull that particular article, but I wanted to give a shout out to Crypto Enzo anyway. Only reason I'm not pulling that one up is it has this weird pop up, and it's just annoying. When I've covered this site in the past, and if you leave it idle for too long, this gigantic pop up comes in. And sometimes you have to hit refresh, and I just don't want to deal with it. But anyway, I do appreciate you, Crypto Enzo, for tagging me in this. So thank you so much if you're watching. Here's a video clip. I want to let you know I'm linking this below if you want to see this. It's from CNBC on this topic, linked below. I'm not gonna actually play the audio in this video, though. I don't really know how copyright claims work or don't work, so just not gonna do it. But I want to let you know if you want to check out a quick video clip, it is below. Here's a piece I wanted to cover, though, on this topic. This is from AmericanBanker.com. And this piece titled, Fed plans to launch real-time payment service by 2024. All right, the Federal Reserve said Monday that it will build and operate a real-time payment system, a long-awaited decision that was sure to please many smaller financial institutions while antagonizing the nation's biggest banks. And by the way, as it pertains to settlement, the reason that I'm presuming, because I read through this piece just one time before recording here, but the first thing that struck me as I read that is, just so you know, smaller banks, as it pertains specifically to settlement, the smaller banks out there, they don't necessarily have no-show accounts over the entire world. You can imagine that they don't have the capital resources to keep their available capital dormant in various currencies around the world. And so they actually tap into the liquidity of larger banks. So it's the largest banks out there that mostly have the no-show accounts all over the world. And so the smaller banks are actually paying their larger competitors to tap into this. Now, presumably, with some transactions, even though there's limited detail out today, limited detail about what this FedNow program actually looks like, presumably larger banks don't like it because they wouldn't be able to feed off of their smaller customers. To what degree, it remains unclear, and I'm going to read further in this piece and you'll see why. And then also we're talking about faster settlement within the United States, and I want to find out exactly what they mean by that. So of course, you know, in order to move money, you need trusted. You need well, if you want to move money across borders, you need that chain of bilateral relationships. In terms of moving money in the United States, if you're talking explicitly within the United States, no foreign currency involved whatsoever. There shouldn't be a need for something like XRP necessarily. If you're just talking from one fiat to the same fiat, for those systems, you just need rails built, and there's always trust associated with that to whatever degree. But the part where the trustless portion really is important is when you're talking about actual settlement and the real moving of money around the world via XRapid, which is different. Anyway, let me read on. The United States real-time real-time retail payment infrastructure stands to gain from competition, a federal Gov. Lyle Brainerd said during a speech in Kansas City, Missouri. Including through higher service quality and lower prices over the long run, which in turn should support wider adoption. The announcement ended years of uncertainty about whether the central bank would take a hands-on role in a modern U.S. payments network or instead defer to the private sector. The Fed said that it expects the new service, called FedNow, to be available in 2023 or 2024. That is roughly in line with the timetable that the central bank established back in 2013. But it is well behind the subsequent goal of a Fed-convened task force, which said that by 2020, everyone in the United States should be able to receive fast, secure payments. Well, let me ask you this, though. When has the federal government ever done something under budget and on time? Never. Pretty much never. Anyway, big banks argue that the Fed's involvement will slow adoption of real-time payments in the United States, which already lags behind much of the rest of the world. The Clearinghouse, a payments company that is owned by the nation's largest banks, has been operating its own real-time system since 2017. But many small banks and credit unions, wary that their interests may not be taken into account, have declined so far to sign up for the big bank-owned system. While having the Fed facilitate payments adds competition and provides choice, that choice will likely slow adoption, Sarah Grata, an analyst at Mercator Advisory Group, said in an email. There is also a danger of a two-tiered system, at least for a while, where large banks have their platform and smaller banks have theirs until there is a competitive reason to offer both. Brainerd said that a private sector operator acting alone would face significant challenges in establishing a real-time network with nationwide reach. She also pointed to the Fed's historical role as the operator of payment networks that knit together all of the nation's banks and credit unions. Now here's a quote. To ensure fast payments are available, FedNow will be accessible to all banks no matter the size. Brainerd said in her speech, given our long-standing service connections with more than 10,000 banks across the country, the Federal Reserve is uniquely placed to deliver this outcome. So when I'm reading a statement like that, it sounds to me like, at least as far as it pertains to payments within the United States, it sounds to me like they're just trying to level the playing field, which would make sense that the larger banks wouldn't be so thrilled about that for reasons I cited just a moment ago. Now, how does this all tie into Ripple and XRP? Well, I want to point this out, and hopefully it's obvious within the original tweet that I just read. Here, let me pull this up again. Here we go. So the Federal Reserve announces Federal Reserve banks will develop FedNow service around-the-clock real-time payment settlement service to support faster payments in the U.S. There's nothing in the piece to state that this has anything to do with cross-border transactions. But that said, reading further, I don't know how much more of this I want to read for you, but I will say this. Later on, the piece did talk a little bit about interoperability and in terms of moving money in the future, and they don't cite what the implications of that are explicitly, but understand this. What Ripple and XRP are doing are absolutely unique. They're solving a problem of cross-border payments that is fundamentally different than what's going on here. They're not even creating a cryptocurrency to do this. It's unclear how this operates, but it's not even a stable coin. It's more like, because they're the federal government, we're just saying, I don't know if they're just going to say, hey, we're good for all of this money, you can trust us, and as a result, settlements in real time now. Maybe it's as simple as that. I'm not quite sure. But for the rest of the world, when you want to convert one fiat currency to another, you need to have a trustless system. You need to have, that's why XRP works. There was no technology prior to blockchain that could solve the problem of moving money around the world in a seamless fashion. That's the reason that we've had SWIFT since whenever it was launched, and I can't remember if it was the late 60s or early 70s, whatever it was, and that's why that's still used today. So this occurring, while it will certainly be disruptive for probably mostly the large banks within the United States, this seems completely unrelated, so far as I can tell, to anything that's going on with Ripple and XRP. Presumably it would be a net plus if you're a small bank, if you are a small bank. Let me read a little bit further here. Brainerd also said that United States payment system would also be more vulnerable if it had just one provider of real-time payment services. There's a quote, "We are mindful of the serious safety issues associated with a single point of failure, a risk that will rise as faster payments grow," she said. During her speech, Brainerd acknowledged that private sector efforts are underway to establish a payment system that bypasses United States banks and currency altogether, specifically citing Facebook's Libra project as an example. She defended the involvement of banks, saying they have the trust of consumers and businesses that want real-time payments. A Fed official who spoke on condition of anonymity said that the central bank only plans to grant access to its new service to depository institutions, shutting down the idea that tech giants like Amazon or Google might be able to use the platform to bypass the banking system. So, and presumably that would be a huge concern for the banks at large, is if literally they're just chopped out thanks to the federal government. It looks like that's not happening, so that's a positive for the big banks out there. If a company that does not have a bank charter wanted to access the Fed system, that would require congressional approval, according to the Fed official. The Fed official also said that pricing for the service has not yet been determined and that the agency will rely on market practices closer to the service's launch to pinpoint what banks will be willing to pay. The official said the central bank has determined that it can achieve cost recovery over the long run. Brainerd said that 90% of the comments that the Fed received in response to a request for comments last November called for the central bank to operate a real-time payment service. All right. She argued that immediate access to funds could be especially important to households that live paycheck to paycheck, which may never incur overdraft fees or late fees as they wait for funds to become available. Small businesses also stand to benefit since immediate access to funds from a sale may eliminate the need for expensive short-term financing, she said. All right, and here's the part about interoperability, and then I'm probably going to wrap this section of the video up here. But the Fed left a host of questions unanswered, such as how it will make its system interoperable with the existing system built by the clearinghouse. Brainerd said that while interoperability is an important goal, it is not yet clear whether interoperability will be an initial feature of the Fed's systems. And so when they're talking about interoperability here, it sounds to me like they're really just talking about more on a domestic level. They're not even, and I don't think they will, but they haven't broached the topic of moving money around the world. It's not within this piece. It's not anything that I've seen yet from the Fed Now proposal moving forward. So probably not even, like I said, not even remotely related to anything that Ripple's doing. So presumably, even if big banks don't like this, one would think, if this is executed properly, that it would be a net plus for most. But again, completely related to Ripple and XRP. I just wanted to make sure that this is made clear here. And then there's a piece here. This was fascinating, though. Tom B., I wanted to read this here. He tagged me in this. Liquidity management tool, And so this is a piece. I'm not going to open up the link here that he provided here. You can. I'll go ahead and tag it below. But here's a clip from a piece from the Fed. The board specifically discussed two potential services that could be developed by the reserve banks: an interbank service with integrated clearing functionality to support faster payment, and check this out, a liquidity management tool that would enable transfers between accounts held at the reserve banks on a 24/7, 365 basis to support services for real-time interbank settlement or faster payments. So that's definitely fascinating. And this piece is this piece is different. Actually, I did click on this, and I only kind of skimmed through part of it, but it was dated August 2nd. And it's unclear how closely this is related, but as far as settlement, and they're talking about liquidity, I know this always makes us think about Ripple and XRP, but that's probably just because we're in the XRP community. So I'll just leave that at that, though. Next piece here, this is from dailyhodl.com. Not Bitcoin, Ethereum, or XRP? Analysis reveals cryptocurrency with the most positive sentiment on Reddit. The consumer research firm Comparitech has released an analysis of the overall sentiments expressed towards a number of crypto assets on Reddit. After analyzing 48,000 Reddit posts, the study found that 85% of all sentiments across all cryptocurrencies are positive. When it comes to which digital asset has the most positive sentiment overall, the surprising results show Facebook's Libra earned the highest percentage of positive mentions. That did surprise me, by the way. I wasn't expecting that. Anything associated with Facebook, I was like, I don't think so. As for most negative, I actually would have expected it was XRP, but it wasn't. But let me read a little further. The results don't necessarily mean that crypto Reddit loves Libra, but could instead be a sign that crypto holders think the social media giant's digital asset could boost the industry at large. Now, here's a quote. The most positive discussions surrounded Libra, the new project which looks to enable users to send Libra via Facebook-owned Messenger and WhatsApp, renewed hype among Redditors. The majority, 98% of the subreddit's posts were positive. Libra is followed by Cardano, Ethereum, Tron, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, XRP, they should just write XRP, Stellar, and Tether. And you can see here's the chart now, so feel free to take a look at this. And if you look at the most negative sentiment, again, I would, if I had to just guess, I would have guessed that in terms of just topical conversations, where would the most negativity go? I would have guessed XRP, but that's not the case. There's more negative comments towards Stellar, and even more against Tether. I don't know, is that surprising to you? I was kind of surprised. I mean, I guess I can see it in hindsight where I'm like, okay, I get why people have beef with Tether, but I really thought XRP would have been like the most hated because there's so many Bitcoin maximalists out there who are nonsensical. That's kind of what I was thinking anyway. So I just thought it was a fun piece to share with you. But yeah, there's Libra up there, and then second most positive is Cardano again. So there you go. All right, last piece for this video, dailyhodl.com. Bitcoin will cross $15,000 this week, predicts Bitcoin bull Max Keiser. Max Keiser, Wall Street vet and host of the Keiser Report, says he thinks Bitcoin will surpass $15,000 this week. Keiser says he believes a lack of confidence in centralized institutions and fiat currency will push BTC higher. And here's a tweet from him. I'm sensing Bitcoin will cross $15,000 this week. Confidence in central governments, central banks, and centralized fiat money is at a multi-decade low. I'm confident, so I just burned another $10,000 USD S-word coin. That's what he calls the United States dollar. That's okay, fantastic. Correlation does not equal causation, but whenever I burn a few thousand USD, Bitcoin price goes up significantly. Okay. Keiser says he's now certain Bitcoin will hit $100,000 in the long run in light of recent reports that negative yielding debt has ballooned to $14 trillion for the first time. And then here's a quote. Negative sovereign debt equals default. A global sovereign debt default is underway. This is much bigger than the 2008 global financial crisis. Money printing about to go hyperbolic. Bitcoin at $100,000 is now a dead certainty, as is gold, $10,000. And even if he's right, even if he were, and I don't buy into all this, not everything that Max Keiser says. He's like, as likable as he comes off, he's like, oh man, he's a little wacky. Can we be real? Like he's a little bit out there. He kind of sounds like a doomsday guy almost, but sometimes with some of the stuff that he says. But as far as Bitcoin, even if it goes up to that value, the problem is even if you believe, as Max Keiser does, that all the fiat currencies are going to go away, including the United States dollar, you can't use Bitcoin to buy stuff. Okay, it doesn't work. Can you imagine the network congestion if there were enough volume to get it up to a point where it's even valued at $100,000 each? Lightning Network doesn't work today. It simply does not. And even if it did, it requires pre-funded accounts, and it's a centralized solution, which is why it's so silly to me that all these Bitcoin maximalists out there support it and thinks that this Layer 2 technology is actually a solution. In reality, if you want something to be used as money, you probably need better Layer 1 technology unless you're okay with a centralized solution that's Layer 2. Just saying, guys. Alrighty, well that's all I got for you in this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!